The prisoner's dilemma is real. Anywhere rolls. And once again, we're going to have a conversation with national media about how the entire world does not center around San Francisco on today's Unnamed Real Estate Podcast. I probably should have mentioned that, once again, my fantasy football hopes are dashed because of injuries before the season has even started. Hi, my name is Charles Ray Dawson. I am the Associate Broker and Residential Sales Manager at ProStar Realty, and this is the Unnamed Real Estate Podcast, episode 136, and I hope you guys are having a better week than I am. Mostly just because of the fantasy football stuff and my own injuries that are keeping me sort of sidelined. I had a dermatology appointment a couple weeks ago. They sent me over to podiatry, had them take a mole off the bottom of my foot, and so I'm hobbling around like an 80-year-old man. I'm not very happy about it, but I managed to make it into the office today so I could record this podcast because of you, my listeners. I love you all 5 of you. So, news in real estate. Oh, okay. So, the hits just keep on coming. It's the only way to describe it. You remember last week we were talking about how Kenny, the president of NAR, National Association of Realtors, had resigned because of allegations that he was a dirtball. And the week before that, I was talking about various issues we were having with these upcoming Department of Justice lawsuits and this and that. And one of the co-defendants in that on Monday made the announcement that they were indeed rolling and had decided to settle with the plaintiffs. All right. The company known as Anywhere. All right. You guys might not know who Anywhere is. They used to be called Reology. They are the parent company behind a bunch of major brands that you probably know of. This would be Coldwell Banker, Century 21, Better Homes and Gardens, Sotheby's, and ERA. And a couple other ones that I definitely know you haven't heard of because they don't really work on this side of the coast. So they decided that they were going to settle with the plaintiffs, not in the DOJ suit, but in another related suit, the Sitzer-Barnett lawsuit. They basically threw up their hands and went, mea culpa, we agree, we were bad, and we're going to pay $83.5 million to the plaintiffs in a class action suit saying, we took advantage of you poor and suspecting sellers. So that's their statement, and they're sticking to it. As all great court drama has to go, they got to come up with a settlement, they got to work it out, and then they got to get the judge to sign off on it. But that's probably going to wind up happening. So what did we have? We have multiple companies that are involved in these various lawsuits. ProStar is not one of them. All right. They're only going after the big guys right now. So, and like the classic game theory prisoner's dilemma. Okay. For you guys who don't know what this is one of the most powerful things in humanity. All right. Right up there with, man, I just can't think of anything right now. I've probably done more talking right now than I have all week. Prisoner's dilemma is part of game theory. Game theory is how people balance risks and potential losses in their interactions with other human beings. This originally started right around during the Cold War when we were trying to figure out what the Russians were going to do, and the Russians were trying to figure out what we were going to do. So the prisoner's dilemma, in short, was you have 2 prisoners. They've both been busted for the same crime. They are both in separate interrogation rooms. All right, picture your favorite police procedural here. All right, like Castle or whatever. All right, and if they both keep their mouths shut, all right, they're both going to walk out of there with like a 6-month sentence. All right, if they don't fess to nothing. All right, okay. Just because I'm using prisoner's dilemma and it happens to do with prisoners and crimes does not necessarily see the National Association of Realtors actually committed a crime. All right, that's for the courts to figure out. But we're talking about the prisoner's dilemma here. All right, so back to our interrogation rooms. So Rocco and whoever, these two criminals in there. All right, if they both keep their yap shut, they're going to get out in 6 months. But if any of them, either one of them, fingers the other guy, say, oh, it wasn't me, it was Rocco over there, right? You're going to get out scot-free. Sound good? And if both of them finger the other people, all right, they're going to get a reduced sentence, of 6 months. So they're in this weird situation where they have to guess what the other guy's going to do. Can I trust Rocco? Is Rocco going to squeal? All right. If I think Rocco's going to squeal, then I have to squeal, because otherwise I'm doing the full time. If Rocco keeps his mouth shut, I'm only doing 6 months, and I can do 6 months standing on my head. All right. But if I squeal and Rocco doesn't, then I'm walking out of here free as a bird. See how that kind of works? So when you have multiple defendants on there, and this is one of those really fun things about the courts, right? Where, a witness will say something, the attorney for the other side will object, the judge will say abstained or whatever, okay, and then turn to the jury and say, you guys are supposed to forget the last 30 seconds of your life. You guys are not going to figure this, done. You guys just forget that ever happened. All right. In reality, human beings don't forget these things. All right. In this particular case, since a defendant of this suit has decided they're going to be the first ones to step up and say, my bad, right? They're going to walk away with writing a check for $83.5 million. All right. They might have been looking at the situation and going, you know what? The first one to squeal gets the cheapest bill. All right. And they had to sit there and look at everybody else involved. All right. Looking over at Keller Williams is Gary Keller the kind of guy who's going to roll? Or whoever's running any of these other companies. All right. And since we just had the president of NAR get taken out, all right, have to resign, and they know NAR is a co-defendant in this whole thing. Wow, we have no idea what the hell NAR is going to do right now, because we're not even sure if the CEO is going to be there at the end of this week. Right? And just as a little gossipy aside, the CEO of Anywhere is a woman who really, really was pushing in the editorials and everything. Hey, NAR's got to straighten their act out. Right. This might have been the last straw for her. She might have gone to the board and say, okay, we're just going to settle this thing and walk out. Right. Part of the settlement is that they're going to have to change their practices. Nobody knows what that means. This lawsuit is centered around something that is so, it's the way real estate gets done. Okay. It really is the way real estate gets done. We don't even know how they're going to come up with a resolution on that part. How are they going to fix this problem, right? By not having not enforcing the participation rule, all right, and not telling sellers, hey, you're going to have to consider putting a little bit out there for the buyer side, all right? Those companies, all right, the 5 that I mentioned plus the other ones, all right, they might be big enough in certain markets to say, you know what, we're not using the MLS at all. If you want to buy our Century 21 house, you have to come to a Century 21 or an affiliated broker. We're not talking to any ProStar agents who come in here. And if ProStar agent does show up, that ProStar agent better have an agreement with their buyer that their buyer is going to pay them direct, because we're not paying them anything. All right. We have a business model for this. This is called builders. This is what builders do. All right. We also have another business model outside of the real estate industry going, this is what car salesmen do. Right? Car salesmen do not tell you, if they're a Ford salesman, they're not telling you about the latest Chevy Silverado that just come out. Right? They're going to be trying to sell you a Ford F-150. Make sense? All right. Unless they happen to have one on the lot in back somewhere, right? But that's the business model I think Anywhere is going to have to go to, which means a whole bunch of the industry is going to go to. So how does this work out? This is literally, me and Steve the broker had a conversation for like 30 minutes, just like da. Okay, so this is what the entire industry is trying to do. Well, let's be honest, right? Somewhere out there is a person sitting at our open house playing Candy Crush or looking at TikToks, all right, who has no idea this is coming down the pike, all right, but she's an agent. There are probably some brokers out there, all right, who are doing, I can think of 3 right off the top of my head, who probably aren't tracking this story at all, okay? This is going to be a big deal. This is a big deal. All right. And how this is going to affect real estate down the road, what's it going to be like next year, is going to be a really, really interesting question. I think the first companies that come up with a solution that allows them to exist are going to dominate the future. least that's what I'm hoping for. This is the asteroid. It's going to kill off the dinosaurs. It's time to embrace your inner weasel. All right. So that being said, what else do we have in the news? National news. Okay, national news. I hate national news because they're usually written by people who are looking at things nationally, and generally reporters don't actually have an understanding of the market that they're writing their thing on, right? But big news came out about San Francisco saying that 12% of sellers in San Francisco are selling their houses at a loss, right? And this is horrible for the country. And it's like, nah, you read the article and you break the whole thing down, and it's horrible for San Francisco. All right, because the rest of the country is looking like this. All right, San Francisco on this thing is in blue. All right, they were quite happy to benefit through 2008, 2013 during the crash years. All right, because the whole rest of the world was doing worse than them. Okay, but then they recovered down really, really quick. But they have just been slammed over since the COVID days kicked out, and now they're sitting there at about 12.3%. All right, of sellers losing money on this sell. All right, nationally, we're at 3%. You can actually look at nationally and sit there and go, you know, that's a hell of a lot better than we've been since, what is this, 2006, 2007? All right, and going through that time period before, remember we had a little recession here back in 2000. All right, you know, what would the national average be over something like that? Probably about 20% just because of these years right here. Right, but it popped up, you know, for 12.3, and of course, you know, hey, that gives us something to write about. So they wrote this article: 12% of San Francisco homes sell at a loss, compared with 3% nationwide. All right, these, you know, also notice this is a rolling 3-month period, which all these big national companies have to do because, you know, it takes them a while to get the data in. They're not like the Cromford report over there, where they're literally looking at the data they're literally looking at the house that sold that just went closed on the MLS 30 seconds ago. All right, and they're gathering national information. But this is one of those things people are talking about it. National tweets are already going on saying housing 12% loss, don't buy a house, buy my gold, buy my Bitcoin, you know, buy my 5-gallon bucket of freeze-dried food for when the apocalypse happens, or whatever like that. All right, but this is burrowing down past this article to the article before. All right, I probably had this rant with you guys before. All right, but if you are reading an article and it is not linking back to what it's quoting, that's sus. That is really, really suspect. All right, if I'm quoting an article, and I'm going to quote this article, you know, afterwards, and it will be in my show notes below. And while you're down there, you might as well click that little like and subscribe buttons while you're going through my show notes. All right, you're going to burrow down in there, and you're going to realize that there is another article on the back of this that is saying part of the reason why San Francisco is selling for a loss, and some of these other regions and other areas, is because bosses are expecting their employees to come back to work. All right. Bosses are expecting their employees to come back to work, which means when you said, I can work from home and I don't only need to be in the office 1 day a month, I'm going to move 2 hours out of town, all right, to that nice little hamlet up there in the mountains with great internet, and I'm going to do my work from there. Now everybody's certainly having to come back in. Remember, this is part of a reason for the, you know, for the COVID rush. Everybody suddenly realized they're going to be working from home. They can be working from home. And if we're going to be working from home, I can't be in this house with her when I'm doing my calls and they're doing their calls, right? So everybody went and got big houses, right? Now they're suddenly being told we need to come back in, all right? And that 2-hour commute once a month has suddenly turned into a 2-hour commute one way every day, right? Only California does that. So that's part of these reasons why we're having this drawback, right? And like I said, show notes below, you can read the article yourself. I also had some really, really great charts on there about breaking out all the major areas and stuff like that. And Phoenix came in, because I know you're going to ask this, at 4.3%. Okay, so just under 1 out of 20 is selling at a loss. Remember, things happen to people. I'm constantly telling people, if you are not planning on staying in the place you buy for the next 5 years, all right, stay there. Keep renting. If you were planning in 5 years, I'm going to get that job transferred to wherever, you don't want to buy a house. All right, you need to be able to get in there, have enough time for your down payment, all right, and your closing costs to come off through appreciation. And your selling costs, no matter what Department of Justice say, you're still going to have to pay somebody to sell your house. All right, so you want to stay in the, and with the appreciation that we've had, some people argue 3 years. You can do it in 3 years. Hell, back in, if you bought a house back in 2019, you could have sold it in 2020, all right, and probably made money out of the deal. 2020 to 2021. If you sold your house, if you bought your house in March of 2020, when or was it 2019? Anyways, when that COVID kicked off, that glorious little day where everything went to hell and houses started going up 25% in some zip codes, you would have made a serious profit if you sold a year later. All right, that's not the way the world is right now. So, once again, if you see anything in this article, if you've seen anybody referencing this article, now you know a little bit more about it. And let's go to general activities and whatnot. So, interest rates, we're looking, seeing quotes in there. If you're seeing an interest rate in the 6, you're going to be buying it down. We're still sitting at the 7s. Another article came out saying we might be looking at 8s. Other things that happen in the national news is that the various financial institutions are recorrecting our unemployment numbers. Right? It's one of those things that, they throw the numbers out. Hey, this is what unemployment was the last quarter. And then they'll sneak in a correction a couple months later going, oh, yeah, we looked at the numbers a little bit more and they've adjusted. And they're all adjusting in the higher unemployment sites. All right. So, which is something we know the Fed's been tracking, okay, because they're afraid of, inflation. And high unemployment helps curtail inflation, which is sort of why they've been messing around with the interest rates and everything. So does that mean the Feds have enough information? Okay, we broke the economy, we broke it now we can turn off the stick. All right, don't know. But these articles that I've been reading are all saying, we could be hitting 8s, and that's assuming the Fed continues to do what they said they're going to do, is they're going to keep raising the interest rates up until they see inflation down in the 2s. All right. Will the Fed look at the new revised numbers before they make that decision, or had they already written the email and it's just sitting there in their draft folder, and they're just going to walk in that morning, hit send, and walk out? Don't know. So, but between these two things that we've talked about, interest rates and the issue that's going on with NAR, I don't say this very often, all right, but if some kid came up to me right now and said, hey, I want to be a real estate agent. How do I get into that? I would say, nah, you don't want to be a real estate agent right now. You don't want to be a real estate agent right now. You want to be a plumber. Trust me, you want to be a plumber. All right. Some of the projections out here is going to be that there are going to be 25 to 50% less licensed real estate agents when the smoke clears than we have going right now. I don't know any industry out there. Okay, and there's like 1.5 million and a half realtors paying their dues to the Realtor Association out there right now. Figure half of them are going to be gone. So the survivors is going to be pretty cool. All right. Trick is going to be surviving the next year. If you were starting out in this industry right now, I don't think you're going to survive the next year. Right. Unless you're working at ProStar and you got like me and Steve training you how to do this. Right. Or maybe if you're in another state and you can find the equivalent of ProStar out there with people who are really interested in, actually growing you as a human being, teaching you how to work your circles, you might have a snowball's chance in hell. But other than that, plumber. I will find another YouTube video. This is actually out of England. It's a historian that I like to follow when I'm playing my video games, and I got him talking in the background. And he breaks the math down that why if you are in the UK right now and you think you're going to go to university and become a college lecturer, you will never catch up with the plumber. From just a pure money in your pocket at the end of your life when you shuffle off your mortal coil, all right, you will never catch up with that plumber who at the same age of 19 decided he was going to be a plumber when you decided you were going to be a university lecturer. I'll include that too. So I don't even know why I spun out of that thing, except just, don't do it. That, and I don't want the competition, right? I mean, everybody and their dogs knows at least 3 real estate agents out there. There's somebody's, spouse is a real estate agent on the side while they work their day job, or what they work wherever and stuff like that. Hopefully those are the ones who are going to go away. Especially if we start looking at this National Association of Realtors suddenly talking about, well, we're going to have to pay out a lot of money, so we're going to have to raise the dues on all you people who were just doing what we told you to, and you weren't allowed to do it any other way. Yeah, I'm still bitter about that. So, yeah, this is, I'm actually sort of like jazzed up about the whole thing, but I really am a chaos troll deep down inside. So for you people who aren't chaos trolls and just want the clean, hard numbers and everything like that, these were the numbers for September 6th. Actives are 11,888. We're up 219 from the week before. New listings were 1,731, up 26. Very weird for this time of year. Contracts were 18,007 total, down 144. Our closings were 1,701. All right, coming soon in MLS near you is 581, and all our numbers are still shifting towards the buyers down there. Supply is up to 49.3. Buyers are down to 76.3, and Cromford report numbers overall are at 154.7. Still technically a seller's market, working its way south. So, other thing that we got going on right here is, let's look at our little regional areas. Chandler's still dropping, right? But they're still leading the pack at 285, so they got a lot of height on that glide slope. Glendale's coming down, or Paradise Valley. All right, luxury homes. You never know what they're going to do. They tend to trend towards the stock market, all right? So let's just ignore Paradise Valley right now. Cave Creek is still moving up. All right, poor man's Scottsdale, you might want to consider it. A lot of good deals up there. Tempe is moving up, all right, and Buckeye is moving back up. All right, but we're still losing in Queen Creek, which is still in a balanced market. Maricopa is still technically in a seller's market, and so forth. So if you're looking for a deal, you're looking out there at Queen Creek, probably Santan Valley, that neck of the woods, right? I got a buyer who's working that area. There's some interesting houses out there, all under 400s. Remember our math we did earlier. If you want to buy if you are a first-time home buyer and you're looking at buying, right, these are your numbers. Okay, and just for the record, that buyer that I have out there, his lender quoted him some numbers. He forwarded on to me, and they're almost identical to this. All right, but they were actually able to include the taxes on the whole thing, so that they were actually, So there you go. This is your first-time home buyer model. All right, we do have houses cheaper than this. All right, you might not like the neighborhoods, you might not like the condition. All right, but here's your first-time home buyer. All right. That being said, did I miss anything? No, think I got it all, except for the highlights. Repeat after me, kids. We all know the song. Watch your children and pets around water. All right? Do not drive into anything flooded. Work your circles. And I hope you guys have a really, really great weekend, because I'm just going to be sitting at home playing video games with my feet up. You guys have a good day.